Hey there riders, MotoJourno Chris here today, and I wanted to have a chat about the GoPro Hero 8 Black. Now, I've been using the GoPro Hero 7 Black for quite a while, was really impressed with it, but when the new one came out, I was kinda tempted to pick one up. However, they're an expensive camera. The thing that got me across the line was that I renewed my mobile plan and I got a $400 credit to use at my local electronics shop, and I could pick one of these up for essentially like $100, which was a really good deal. Now, the Hero 7 did everything I wanted. I wanted a second camera, and the things about the Hero 8 that really sounded kind of attractive to me was that there's a medium mod coming out, not available yet. There's a light mod, kind of interesting, but you can buy those already and just fit them to any hot shoe mount. But still interesting. The fact that basically this is meant to offer Hypersmooth 2, which is an even more improved system of that Hypersmooth, which is really good in the GoPro Hero 7. And of course, on top of that, you're just getting overall improvements. Different battery in these. One of the big things that they boasted about was that it's a smaller form factor. To me, I mean, unless you're going down to the Hero Session size, I don't really think that personally matters, maybe to some people, but the big downside to that change was essentially just the fact that they got rid of the removable screen on that. So on the GoPro Hero 7, you can just basically clip it off and put a new one on if you scratch it or if you smash it, which I've been using the GoPro Hero 7 Black for say a year, and I've never had an issue with the lens itself. Even on a motorcycle, it's normally mounted to my chin, but with a secondary camera, I wanted to mount it all over the bike, and obviously that's a concern. With that being said, you can buy a kind of tempered glass lens to go over the front and the back, which is going to protect it. I've got some of those on order because I want to see how those go, and I just want to protect it. But I do think with the GoPro Hero Black, that change is a little bit annoying for those who are really into the proper, you know, kind of real action sports, because the chances of damaging the camera, as rugged as they are, is definitely higher, and you're going to be paying a much higher price. The flip side to that is you can go get your GoPro Plus membership, which gives you discounted prices on all of their accessories, a couple of other perks like some cloud storage, which I have to say doesn't bother me at all. Like I probably wouldn't use it. And basically, you can apparently switch the cameras, no questions asked, if they're damaged twice a year. There's a small fee, and I do think the removal of that removable lens, I guess you'd call it, probably is so that they can push that GoPro Plus membership for people who are obviously going to need that kind of essentially insurance. It's almost like an insurance package, but I think it's $7 Australian, so it's quite cheap. Now, as far as the features, one of the big ones on this one is that there is no cage for the camera. It actually has those GoPro legs, which, you know, are such an iconic feature of the GoPro. Those are built into the camera. They bolt on to the bottom of the camera and they are replaceable. So if they pulled out of the camera, perhaps you can replace them. However, in that case, I'm assuming the thread's going to be destroyed. I guess if they got mashed up enough, you could replace them. So there is that. However, it kind of feels like if you needed to replace them, there's probably going to be greater issues going on. There is a microphone under there, and there is a microphone on the front. One thing I've noticed running this on the bike is that you do seem to get a little bit better sound from the bike because of that low mounted microphone on the bottom. However, it can mean when you're using it generally, you get more muffled speech and the audio quality suffers a little bit because of that placement, particularly if you're not using those feet. Because obviously they're covering the microphone on the bottom of the camera. So on the usability side of things, a really big improvement on this camera if you ask me. As you can see here, I've just got that open. I'll give you a close-up of the screen. However, what you've got is you've got your modes, and you've got 3 preset modes where you set all the settings in them, like your Pro Tune. Basically here, I've got it set up. I've got a standard mode, 2.7K 30 linear. I've got an activity mode, which is 4K 30 wide, and I've got a slow-mo mode, 2.7K 60 wide. So you can set those up, and then instead of having to go through and manually change all the settings as you need them, you've got those 3 presets there ready to go. Really good. Now, another change is the movement of that battery panel. So essentially that comes off, very simple, but it is a little bit more difficult to get in there and get the battery in when you've got this door. basically on the camera. It is easy once that's removed to pull out the battery, and it's worth noting that these GoPro Hero 8 Blacks have a different battery. They've got this blue battery, as you can see here, or blue-ended battery, and essentially it's the same as the GoPro Hero 7 and the GoPro Hero 5 and 6 battery. This is meant to have a better ability to put out the power needed for 4K, and if you don't use that with the 4K, they do say that the performance can suffer or it might not work. I've used my batteries from the older camera interchangeably with no issues, but I mainly record in 2.7K. And it's a little bit annoying that they've added a battery like this that you need to purchase as an upgrade to a camera which is essentially using the same battery. On the flip side, I do seem to get better battery life out of this with the new battery, so it's possible there's something going on there as well, although it could just be the camera being a little bit more efficient with the energy use. Alright, on the bright side, you are still attached, which is pretty good. I just chucked on one of those GoPro mounts onto the front fender. No dramas whatsoever with that staying on. Hopefully we got some cool footage. That is the GoPro Hero 8 Black as well. And yeah, the battery's still holding out well. Hopefully these new Hero 8 Black specific batteries have a bit longer life than the previous ones. I think they're good for maybe an hour 30 perhaps on the GoPro Hero 7, but it'd be good to get a little bit more life out of them. But I do have a charger that I can charge into a portable bank and kind of keep my batteries rolling over, so not too big of a concern. And really interested to see how this goes. And of course this is just the standard GoPro Hero 8 Black audio. Now, one thing to say about that move to that side kind of panel and the battery panel is that obviously that's so that the media mod can connect straight onto the side of the camera. So when it comes to general usability, how am I finding the camera itself? Really, really good. It's simple because I don't need a cage to connect it onto things, which I do appreciate. It seems really sturdy. It's got quite a fibrous kind of outer shell here, where the other one had rubber all over the camera. So I do like that. I have noticed they've since brought out a kind of a rugged shell that you can put over this. It looks like kind of a rubber shell with a protective lens. So that kind of replaces what they removed by getting rid of the cradle or the shell that used to go around these to hold them in place. So in a way, it's not as big a step forward as people might imagine if you want the protection of a removable screen, but it's still a change nonetheless, and it does play into the fact that they're adding all these mods. So they've got the media mod I mentioned, they've got the light mod, and they've also got a blogging mod kind of thing, which has like a flip up screen. Kind of cool feature. Got its own battery power source, of course, which is really good, so it's not going to drain the battery on the camera. But who's going to need that? It's going to be, you know, a specific type of user, and it's probably not something that I would use this for because I've got a separate camera apart from the GoPros for doing the little pieces to camera. But if you need the GoPro for everything, quite good, but it's like 130 Australian dollars, probably a bit cheaper in America, so it is a bit expensive. Like if you add the media mod and the flip up screen mod and the light mod, say for instance, you're almost looking at the price of the camera. It's like 350 bucks, so it adds a lot to the cost of the camera, and at that price you're kind of looking at, you know, there's a lot of stuff you can buy for that kind of money. So overall, this is just first impressions. I've been really happy with the video quality. I'll put some examples up. I've got to say, easy to use. I think as far as usability, there's an advantage on this over the old GoPro Hero 7 Black. With the two being priced relatively similar, I would say that the GoPro Hero 8 is definitely the one to buy. It doesn't seem to crash anywhere near as much as the GoPro Hero 7 did. I did kind of get around that by working with it quite a bit and figuring out what was causing the crash, which partially seemed to be turning the camera on and off to split up my videos too kind of frequently. If you turn it off and try and turn it back on, that seemed to be where it froze. Not doing that anymore and not leaving the batteries in the camera certainly solved a lot of the GoPro Hero 7 issues, but they just don't seem to be there on the GoPro Hero 8. So to me at least, it seems like an upgrade. I do have to say though that some GoPro Hero 7 people had no issues and some had heaps of issues. So whether there's other underlying issues there, I can't say. But the video quality on this, exceptional. I like that there's extra options. There also seems to be the ability to shoot in 2 different video quality modes, or I guess, the bitrate modes, which means that you can record in a much lower bitrate so that you're not being overwhelmed by the file sizes. I do like that. I have to say I normally run it off because the file sizes does get out of hand with 4K, even though it gives you a lot more flexibility with the footage that you record. But overall, really happy. It's still obviously an action camera. It's still limited in the way that the action camera is. It's got, you know, an enormous depth of field, so you can't get that nice bokeh effect that you get on some cameras. However, small price to pay for such good quality video, so much flexibility in the different shooting modes you get, and overall, really happy with the GoPro Hero 8. As I said, I definitely would pick this over the GoPro Hero 7 unless that interchangeable lens on the front, because you think you might damage it, is the main buying point. I think there's enough advantages in the GoPro Hero 8 to warrant upgrading. I think it's like 50 bucks more for the GoPro Hero 8 at the moment, which is not much for the newer generation. It's got, you know, the newer software, it's got a much better UI. Obviously front lens is a disadvantage, but it's going to have all the mods, which is going to be an advantage. And at the end of the day, I do think this has taken it a step forward. So that's my thoughts on the GoPro Hero 8 Black. I'm going to be doing a more in-depth review on the bike, so stay tuned for that. And I'll look a bit more deeply into all the features and the pros and cons of the camera as I've spent more time using it, but so far very impressed. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a comment below, hit that notification bell, and as always, stay safe out there, and thanks for watching.